Hey, Lisa.
Hey. I got a couple more minutes before this starts.
Yep.
I went ahead and started the live stream so that it sends out the notice to the subscribers that we're live.
Okay.
So that way, keep it easy.
I figured out what happened to my audio a while ago. The space bar, which advances the PowerPoint, also mutes the microphone.
Darn. All right, everybody, we're about ready to get started. If you have any questions along the way, don't hesitate to use the chat or use your mic as we go through the entry and exit strategy that we've been testing on swing trades. So let me get this going here. So here I wrote down the entry rules. We're going to show this all on a chart because if you're like me, I'm very visual. But we're looking for ways when, you never know when those big runners are going to occur. And we were looking for how can we enter a trade with a trend and through using a trail stop, be able to leverage and get those big runners, and how, when and how we're going to add additional contracts on. So the entry rules are we're going to enter the trade with the trend. Our stop is going to be 3 ticks past the distal. 1 contract is used in this example. And when we're in a swing trade, in the direction of trend breaks, then permission to add on 1 additional contract of newly formed bands. So in other words, as long as my trend is continuing, I have permission to add on an additional contract when a new supply or demand band is formed, depending on which way the trade goes, whether it's a long or a short. Trail stop management is that we will trail the stop by 3 bases once price hits 1-to-1. We're also going to be looking at using the trail is going to be like if we're going short, it will be the high of the base, or a long will be a low of the base, and I'll show you that in more detail. If we get 2 consecutive stop outs, in other words, an entry, exit, then we're anticipating a trend change. And at that point, if we're going to go, if we've been going short, we're going to start looking to go long or whatever the chart ends up telling us. And really in this scenario, we are exiting when we hit our stop. Since this is just looking at doing one contract. All right, so let me escape out of this. All right, so can you guys see my chart?
Looks good.
Okay, so I have a band right here, and this is where we're starting and looking at this process of trailing the stop. And so this big bold line right here is where price entered the band. You can see here, I put my fib lines on. Unfortunately, my stop lines up with another line on the chart, but you can see I've got the stop here. This is on the 10-year, a 284 tick bar chart. And so this is the method of trailing that seems to, we did look at other different tick bar charts, and the 2584 seemed to be the kind of the cleanest, easiest chart to track this on. So if we start here, price enters here, and then we're wanting to see 3 bases. So let me just blow this up here for a second and show you something. So this kind of magenta line right here is the top of a base. You can see this little dash here. That is the candle that starts your base. And then once the low of a base is broken, that goes away. And so we're just tracking whether it's a base high or in this case, a base low. So that's kind of what the definition of a base is for this scenario. Any questions on that? All right. So you can see here that, let me pull, oh, I didn't mean to do that. You can see, let me get this back up here where we can see this was the last swing low right here. Price came in, hit here, and right here on this candle is when it closed below this low. And so that's showing us that the trend is continuing down, and that gives us permission to add on another contract when price retraces to this band. So that's kind of explaining how we would add the contracts in, is when we see price continuing breaking the swing lows. In this case, you got to close below. Sometimes we only see a wick below. And those are the types of things we'll be looking at and evaluating and deciding, okay, is that wick below versus close below? Is that something important? So I've got here 1, 2, 3. Right here's 3. Actually, the marker for the base is right here, 3 bases. And at that point, I have 3 bases, but until this goes below this green line here, which is my 1-to-1 mark, I can't move my stop. So as soon as price has hit this, then I have permission to move. And so where my stop was originally up here at the 2802, then I would move my trail stop the first time, and that would be at 127.30.5. So that's the purple line here is the trailing stop. I realize there's a lot of lines on the chart, but in order to kind of give you guys some visuals, I tried to add some lines and some text to kind of just help you understand exactly what we're trying to do here.
Lisa, Can you click on the line and highlight it so that it shows
Yeah.
without
Yeah.
moving it? There.
Yeah, I can. So if I'm careful. Yeah. So you can see this is the first trail stop. And then here's your one, 2, 3 bases, and prices right here past your green line right here, which is the 1-to-1. So once this candle right here crosses over, then I would move my stop. So you can see
you entered the trade where? At the band where
This-
TS1 is?
you see this band right here.
Yes.
That's the band where we entered. This is our entry right here.
So, well, that's the formation of the band. You entered the trade when
That the
price
heavy
returned
at the heavy green line,
Okay. And so then your stop is what? That was 3 ticks, you said, beyond the distal line.
which
So
is right here.
That's at the 128.02.
Yeah,
Is that right? Okay.
yeah, right there. Can you see the little white
All right.
dots?
Okay. So that's where you got into the trade. And now at this point here, you have permission to enter down there at TS3. So you're already in the trade at that point. So that's where you're looking to start adding on. Is that right?
Well, the TS3 has nothing to do with the permission to enter. The permission to enter is the fact that I broke this swing low and that I'm continuing to show a downtrend.
Okay, so your permission to enter is what? Your permission to enter means you can add on at that point?
When a band is formed and price comes back to it, I'm allowed to enter and add one contract.
Okay,
And then once you do enter the one contract, that contract has the same stop as the original contract. So if price came right immediately back into this band right away,
right.
my stop would be up here at the TS1.
Okay, so your stop goes to TS1 once you pass the 1-to-1 point, once the green line is broken. Is that
Correct. Correct. 3
Yeah.
with the 3 bases. So
So
you've got 1.
you've got permission to enter before you've reached your 1-to-1 point.
That is correct.
Okay,
Well, actually, they actually happen on
Simultaneous.
they happen on the same candle. See this
Okay.
candle right here? See the crosshash?
yeah. All
That's
right.
the candle. Maybe I should make this Wix sticker. But that's the candle where you have permission.
Okay, I think I'm following you now.
Okay. So
Interesting.
So then we're looking to move when can we move our stop again, right? Because we haven't come back into this band yet to join in on the trade. So we're looking at, okay, when can I move, right? So if I look here, I've got 1, 2, 3 bases. So at this point right here, when this broke lower, basically somewhere around in here, that is when you would have permission to move your stop the second time. So I just wrote TS2.
Trail stop 2.
Yeah. Okay.
And
All right.
you're only going to have one trail stop, but you're going to be moving that stop at each location. And whenever you put in a new contract, you're going to have a second stop order, and those stop orders always remain the same location.
Right. Yeah, because you're trying to get into the swing trade. You're just
Yes.
trying to see where, and this strategy is the purpose of this was trying to figure out where we could add on. safely add on to the trade. What were the signals that we wanted to see to feel like we could add on? And in this section right here, you can see you've got the yellow marks for the base candles. These are kind of all the same base, and that base being retested, because here's the original base, and price is just coming back in and retesting that same base over and over. So you get this sideways action. So we did not at this point, with this action taking place, we're not moving our trail stop, because this is just some sideways action. And if you look at the original base right here, let me put let me take my snap off.
All that becomes noise.
Yeah. So we're actually kind of like this whole, actually, I did already put this whole yellow box really is noise.
Yes.
So let me make that a little smaller. Hold on.
Essentially, you're using the base highs as protection for your stop. And so in this particular case here, you have all that sideways activity at essentially the same price level. So any orders there, any unfilled orders there are going to be few, if not entirely eliminated. So it's not going to act as any kind of reasonable protection.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay. So then the next, the first ability to add on is this supply band right here. And we did have price wick below the swing low, but it did not close below. But we went ahead and said, okay, we would enter here. And again, your trail stop at this point, you've got this whole noisy band area. So your stop is still going to be up here at the trail stop 2 area, because you haven't had anything significant happen from the base standpoint to make you feel like you can move your stop. Then we're just kind of chopping sideways here. But we do, at this point, we do see that we get this. You've got, this is your last swing low, and this is a little bit lower swing low, but again, it's still really sideways. And I guess I should say the green dots are the swing lows and the red dots are the swing highs. So the indicator's just helping me see the bases and the swings, so I can test the theory and see, is this a good thing or not? And so now we have our 2 contracts. Let me just tighten this up a little bit. And here's when price finally breaks out of all this sideways action. And at that point, don't do that. Then we're looking at moving our trail stop again. I'm gonna have to scrunch this up a little bit so you can see where we move it. There's a balance between seeing what's going on. Okay, so this right here is trail stop 3. Okay, so you've got 1, basically 2, and then here is your 3rd base. So in this area is when you would have permission to move that trailing stop. And you can see we got quite a bit, price has moved away quite a bit at that point. So when you have these, big what do they call them? ERCs.
And
These
the range
big,
account.
yeah, extended range candles. You know, we may find that when we have a situation like this, that we may have to have an adjustment to the strategy in order to make sure we don't give away too much profit. So, and of course, at this point here, we've now closed below this swing low. So we're feeling good about the prospect of if we get another supply band entering in, which is what happened right here. We got another supply band. You created a new swing low and we enter in right here. Now this just touched the distal. So, you know, in sim trading, you get filled, but in live trading, we all know sometimes we don't get filled. But we showed it for the purpose of this exercise. We just said we would be filled right there. Okay, let me get you. Okay, so now you've got your trail stop number 4 here. And again, price is continuing lower. You're getting the lower swing lows. And so you have at this point 1, 2, 3 bases. And let me show you this real. So the way it draws this base, we went ahead and put it up at this prior wick just because it was a swing high associated with the base. You know, you could have put it lower right at the top of the base. Again, that's the type of thing that, you know, you want to evaluate. Does those couple ticks help you or hurt you with the way price action is going? And this swing trade lasted, let's see, this one lasted, I think, 8 days. Let's see, yeah, 8 days. So, you know, you're going to have some, you can see here, here's all the trades and where I recorded them at. The duration was 8 days. So, you know, you're going to have those low volume hours where there's not a whole lot going on. You know, and so you may see that things look a little more erratic during the, you know, the overnight hours. So now we've moved our stop here and we have our 12 trail stop 5. And if we go to, so 1, 2, 3. So at this point here, when this base gets broken and it closes lower, then we would move our stop to the top of this base. And then keep moving this up. And again, you can see we're continuing to break and close below the swing lows. We start to get a little choppy right in here. So right here, so we have a wick. Let's see here. I can scrunch it up a little bit so you can see what's going on. So at this point, we've got trail stop 5, and then we've got 1, 2. You still haven't moved your base, haven't been able to move because you've only got 1, 2, and this is a base low, not a base high. So you don't have 3 bases, so you don't have permission to move yet, or at least for the way we did it, we didn't have permission to move. So then you get this new um, band right here, but we did not take the trade here, okay? Because at this point, we did not get the continued break of the base, the swings lows. So we said, okay, we're not taking this trade. So so at this point, we did not have permission to enter the trade. Does that make sense? And we actually, if you see here, this base high here, we actually wicked above it. So we didn't close above it. So technically you've broken 2 base highs at this point.
Well, you're also forming demand there is what it is, because you had 2 base lows in a row, with the second one higher than the first one, although they are kind of close.
Yep.
So yeah, you don't know at this point if you're forming a reversal or not.
Right.
Yeah, so not adding on makes perfect sense.
Right. So then we hit our trail stop. So with the contracts we have open, the total profit is 1656.25 on this portion of the swing trade. So not too bad.
Not shabby at all.
Right. So it definitely.
How much time?
This was 8. Let's see. This one was, hold on, make sure I'm right. This, well, actually, let me finish. The whole thing was 8 days.
Okay.
So we've got some more trades to go through. So, because it ended up being the entire swing until we got a signal of trend change ended up being a total of 10 days.
Okay.
So, and obviously, one of the things you got to think about here is, I'm not sitting here in front of my computer 24/7 looking at a 2584 bar chart. But, for me personally, what I'm hoping is that we can take this information and maybe use it on a higher time frame chart. And then, where you don't have to monitor as quickly and you can, set some alerts or whatever. So that, and if if you miss moving a trail stop in the middle of the night, that's the other thing we got to understand is, if we said, okay, we only want to manage, this trade during our waking hours. So here's an 8 or a 9 hour period where I'm not going to manage it. How does that look? Is that going to be a problem if you're not there, moving the stop, or if you didn't take, if you had permission to enter, a supply band and you didn't take it, would you be leaving a lot of profit on the table? So these are kind of some of the questions, that I've been thinking about as I look at this. And then obviously, if you can figure out a way to automate this strategy and just hit a button and walk away, well, that would be like the ultimate, right? Just be able to tell it how many contracts or whatever, but gives you a different way to consider it. So then at this point, we're stopped out at this red line. And so now we're waiting for permission to enter again. Okay, so at this point, we have finally broken through these swing lows, and we now have permission to enter. So it looks like the downtrend is continuing. So again, we hit this, another band of this sideways activity. And that looks like it goes from what? 1:45 in the morning till what, about 9 o'clock.
Yeah. So your overnight hours where you stopped out, you set your stop and stopped out overnight. You don't care in
Right,
this particular scenario.
right.
It's not really a stop out. It's a trailing stop.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you still made money.
Yes.
So let me,
I guess just call it an exit then.
yeah,
It's-
really it is an exit. It's
It
just
is.
our choice to exit is a trailing stop.
Right.
And that is the exit strategy that we're looking at here then.
Right.
Yep.
All right. So now we've gotten permission to enter, and we do have a band created right here. And so when price comes back to it, we would be able to enter. And I've got the fibs set on here. I will expand those out so we can see them from when price hits that. Got a lot of colors here. Sorry about that, guys. I'm trying to figure out the easiest way to help people visualize what we're talking about. So here you can see price comes in, hits the band. And so we're looking for price to hit 1-to-1. And you can see right here, we touch the 1-to-1 and close below right here. So at this point, we're looking at, do I have permission to move my stop? And so right here, you've got 1, 2, 3. This is kind of the sideways movement again. So we wouldn't be saying we had our third yet. So really right here is where you really have your 3, 1, 2, 3. And what we did here, let me just blow this up a little bit. Here's the top of the band. Here's your candle that started the base. And so we're going to stick our trail stop up at the tallest wick in that base, or the lowest if you're doing the opposite direction. Okay.
But at the base high then essentially, or the high of the base.
The high of the base high, yes.
Okay.
Or the low of the base low if you're going the opposite direction.
Okay.
It's just how many times do you see something just wick through, just barely, right?
Yeah.
And we may, as we look at more of this, we may decide you don't need to do that, right? It's just a starting place. Sorry, I got an alarm going off. So we're in here. We've moved our trail stop here. And then we've created another band. And price has continued to go lower. You've got your swing low here. Price came kind of wicked below it. So at this point, we haven't made a rule about wick below versus close below. So we just took this as a sign of weakness and we said, okay, we're going to continue to go short. So here's our second trade.
So you're in with 2 contracts now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so at this point, let me do this real quick. I'm trying to make it big, but then I can't. So here's your trail stop is right here. Okay. And then it gets,
Mm.
will be 1. So your trail stop goes 1, 2 to the hive here. I should have labeled that trail stop 2, because this is where price exits. It hits that stop. And in this scenario, your total loss is $15.
Wow.
Okay. So you're starting to see, wow, something, again, it's, some sideways action. And then this was, so you're trying to figure out, okay, well, what's my signal? What's the, am I going to keep going with the trend or
Is
not?
the trend changes or not?
Yeah. So it's the trend. Now we're looking for two stops in a row. So an entry, a stop, an entry, and a stop to tell us that trend has changed. So that's kind of the rules we're testing right now. So, a little bit. So we've got another supply band. And at this point, we're still looking to go short. And price comes back up and we get in right here. So I changed the color to yellow for the trail stops for this section, for this different kind of run, to try to help it make it a bit easier for us to see. So, so we're in the trade here. And interestingly enough, here's our stop right here, with our 3 ticks. If we had had our stop set at the distal, it would have wicked through it and we would have been stopped out. But what happened is price came in, went just through the band, and actually came back out and created another supply band. So we got in here, created another band, and got in at the second one. So now we're in 2 contracts. Okay, this big green line here is our 1-to-1. So we're here. So now we can start looking to move, to see if we can move our trail stop. And at this point, we have 1, 2. It's not until we hit break here at this third one that we can move our stop right here. So that's the yellow band. Let me click on it so you can see it. So now our stop is here for the 2 contracts. We're continuing to go lower. So now further permission to add on. And then you've got another band is formed. Price comes back in here. Now we're in 3 contracts. And you have to look at right now, your 1, 2, still 3. So you haven't gotten to a point where you can move your stop yet. So then we have this big dip here. So now we're still 1, 2, 3 because of the sideways action. And this is where it kind of gets complicated looking at it sometimes. Now at this point here, so now we've created a third base. So 1, 2, 3. So now we're going to move our trail stop right here to the top of this base. So we're starting to get some action here so we can trail our bases. And then you get a lot of bases occurring right here. So you can see that it allowed us to move the stop. So we've got 1, 2, 3. So at this point, our base is right here. So I just skipped number 4, but went straight to 5 because I don't need to explain them all to you. And then here, we're looking at the next location to get our 3. And again, we're continuing to break the swing lows. And in this scenario right here, we get a wick below, but not a close below. And we've got, if you look here, we've got 1, 2, and then this kind of base right here. It's one of those base with a retest. So the trail stop moved number 6 to right here. So you've got 1, 2, 3. And at this point, you got a wick below. It looks like momentum slowing, but you do create another base, another band. And so another supply band. So you've got permission to enter. So we enter here. Now, our trail stop is up here. So even though it goes above it, we're still good. We're still in for the 4 contracts at this point. All right. So then we've got, once we hit right here, well, right, I guess it's right here. 1, 2, 3. Then we move here to trail stop 7. And then once we create this base here, 1, 2, 3, trail stop 8. So you can see we're trending pretty good and trailing pretty good at this point. And this is during regular trading hours. So that would be expected. Well, you would hope it would be expected. And then this is a demand band, nothing to do there. We're continuing to break the swing lows. Life is looking good. And then here, we break, price comes up, you break 1 band, then it comes back down, but it's starting to show some strength here. And you're getting concerned about your trail is still up here at trail stop 8 because we haven't proven that we can move it lower yet. And you're here, it's like we put this comment here, the retest of this band, you actually right here, you wicked through that, so would you say that the move is broken at that point and you should exit the trade? That's something to consider. And we kind of saw that hindsight when we went back and looked at the chart after marking it up. It's like, oh, okay, maybe we should have done something different here. So. But we got this supply band here. We enter. So this is our 5th contract in. And in all reality, we really didn't have permission to enter here because we did not break below this. So if I see if I can get it to crosshair. See, we didn't break below, but this is human error. So we actually went back up and hit this band before price broke this. So technically we shouldn't have taken this one. So the result of that is we lost $78 that we shouldn't have in the whole scenario.
But still, once that looks like that stopped out there on just a little bit further right, hit our trailing stop.
Right.
But you still made $3,100.
Correct. Yeah. And this is a reason, trying to figure out the simplest, easiest way to manually trail something. And I mean, we were doing this on a static chart. We weren't even doing it in the live market. So you throw the live market into the mix and it changes things. The good news is the chart tool, it marks the bands, it does the bases, it does the swing highs and lows, so that you're not trying to like do that at the same time you're looking and making a decision on, do I move my stop? Do I add on here? So it does take a few elements off the page. So now we've got an entry and a stop. Now we did go lower. So at this point, we did have permission to enter this supply band after it was created. And price goes through it, hits the stop, because remember, I don't have any contracts at this point because these 5 got stopped out right here. So I entered one contract here and it got stopped out. So it got stopped out for the band width plus the 3 ticks. Okay. So that's what I'm calling a traditional stop instead of a trailing stop. So at that point, we're saying that the trend needs to make a decision on what direction it's going, and we're going to sit on our hands until it proves it. So that's kind of just taking you through that one scenario of a swing trade. The total for the 10 days is about almost just shy of $4,800. So, and you would need about a $10,000 account with the 5 contracts in order to be able to do this scenario on the 10-year. So any questions at this point? Or did I make your head hurt?
Very intriguing.
All right, so let me switch over back to PowerPoint for a second.
Really good. Very, very good.
Oh, I'm glad you like it. So
Details.
based on what we learned going through this, it's kind of like thinking about the next level, right? So, because you have situations where you have a band that you feel like you want to get in, you think price is turning, but your trend has not confirmed yet, but you're kind of worried about missing the boat. We said, okay, if we traded 2 contracts and exited at 1-to-1 with the 2 contracts until we saw price was moving, in the direction of the trend it was truly trending. Then we would, once we got that confirmation, we would exit the first contract at 1-to-1 and then trail stop the second contract. And here, if the traditional stop exceeds the trail stop, then no trade. So looking at some charts, I had some situations where my trail stop would have been located. If I added the 3 ticks onto the band, my traditional stop would exceed the spot of my trail stop. And so that may be a good signal that, hey, this trend has ended. I need to sit on my hands for a bit, or just take a 1-to-1. And then, what did I say? Close, open. Oh yeah. If we're in a situation where it looks like the trend is changing, maybe you just go ahead and close your trades. right? There's nothing wrong with taking the money and running. So that's kind of some of the modifications we talked about and thought about. Does anybody else have any other suggestions, things you think we should look at? All right. So quick note, next week, I will be doing a little vacation, so there will be no meeting next week, but I will resume the following week when I get back, and we'll look at some other things. And if you guys have suggestions for different entry and exit strategies that you would like to show or discuss, we're open. This is really, a time for us to kind of look at different options and figure out just what's kind of the, well, let's just be honest. I want to find a way to do it that is the least amount of screen time for me, to make it easy. And if we don't, find something like that, then, we might have to try to figure out how to automate it. So if you guys don't have any additional questions, I'm going to cut this short a few minutes and bid you guys farewell.
Good presentation, Lisa. Thank you.
Yeah.
I can see the amount of work you got in it.
Yeah, it was a little interesting. The biggest challenge is figuring out how to display it with all the colors. So, all right. Well, you guys have a great rest of your evening, and I will see you in a week.
2 weeks.
Well, yeah, 2 weeks. That's true. All right. Yeah.